Time and place, take one.
I think Dizzy Gillespie was the best musician that I worked with. He was like my mentor because Dizzy was continuing all the time to teach from the time I was with him. And even before I got with his band, when my mother had the band down to the house in Philadelphia to eat for dinner or something, and Dizzy came to the house, and he told me at that time, he says, well, if you want to write music, you got to get to the keyboard and learn how to do it on the piano. And that's when I first met him in I guess that was, James Moody was playing the tenor saxophone with him then, and that probably was around 1947 or something like that. And later I got in the band in 1949, and he was always teaching. He was always telling, and he always would go to the piano and show you different harmonies that he had found or he discovered, and he would give of himself. He was a very good guy. He didn't think about keeping it for himself, or, you know. He always helped young people. And people who got in his bands over the years. He always helped. So, and then I played with him 10 months or so before he passed away in the Blue Note in New York, and it was an all-star band, they call it, with Elvin Jones on the drums, Kenny Barron on the piano, Bob Crenshaw on the bass, Slide Hampton on the trombone, and James Moody and myself on saxophones. And of course, Moody plays the flute. So I was with him off and on many years, you know, of his life. And that was an honor, because he's the guy. He was my Duke Ellington, because I wasn't close to Duke. As long as you can make a living out of the music, and play music that you like and still satisfy some people. You're not going to satisfy all, because the media hype goes in all different directions. You know, it's dumbed down. The music is kind of dumbed down now from what it was. It didn't get, you know, in the media, it didn't get stronger being a jazz musician. But as long as you can raise your family, have a house and a car, what else is it? You know, I mean, you have 10 cars, you can't ride them but one at a time. So Reggie Jackson had a garage full of cars, about 10, and the garage caught on fire, burned up all his cars. So, you know, one is all you need. Oh, you know, you may have a country house and one in the city, but I mean, and a successful, and raise your family, put them in college, and they become something, and you can sit back and say, well, I did something in this world. That's it. That's it. You don't have to be a billionaire or millionaire. You need a million now. A million is chump change according to, you know, some people now. You know, so that's about it, and feel good about what you contributed to the world, musically. I had a family that was musically inclined. My mother sang in the church choir, and she was always singing. My father was an auto mechanic. He worked on cars, but he played the clarinet on the weekends. for a marching band in Philadelphia. And he used to put the clarinet in the pawn shop Monday morning and go back to work as an auto mechanic, get it out on the weekend and go to practice and play as the... My father had about one jazz lick that I remember. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. That's all. Da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Other than that, he was playing Sousa and, you know, the marches. And everybody, Washington Post and all the, you know, that kind of stuff. So, and then they had what they call, at that time, black people's music was like race music, recordings. So we had Jimmy Lunceford records, we had Erskine Hawkins, we had Duke Ellington, we had people like Louis Jordan and his Timpani Five singing and playing the alto saxophone. So we had all this music in the house. However, my father used to we used to listen to European classical music too. Bach and Beethoven and all that too. On the radio, you know. So music was around his house, and my sister was playing the piano. She was the oldest until she met boys, and then she forgot about the piano. And they did too. They started chasing her. And then my brother came along, my older brother, and he was studying the violin. And that wasn't too popular in the ghetto, to be named Percy and be skinny and be playing the violin. That wasn't so important in the ghetto. And then he had a teacher, I'll never forget, named Professor Pugsley. And a pug is a fighter. That's what they call pugilists, you know, a pug. And anyway, Percy would be practicing the violin, and I'd be looking, and Percy would play, and he'd make a mistake. And Professor Pugsley had the longest pencil I've ever seen in my life. He popped my brother on his finger. Pop! And I said, oh. So when my father said, Jimmy, what do you like to play? I said, not the violin. I said, I want to play the saxophone. Because I had heard Johnny Hodges and Benny Carter and those people like that. And I wanted to play the alto saxophone. So my father bought me the alto saxophone. Then my younger brother, Tootie, he plays the drums. So that's how it was an environment, musical environment. Every generation got great players. Every generation. I've seen them come for years. And then being connected to the Thelonious Monk Institute, I'm on the board there. And I go to all the competitions when they have, you know, the saxophone competition, the piano. They change every year, different instrument. And I've witnessed a lot of people come through there. I was a judge. Me, Benny Carter, Jackie McLean, Branford Marsalis was the young guy on the panel at that time. Well, we picked Joshua Redmond in that competition to win, you know, because we found that he was a little more creative and played a little different than some of the others in the competition. So now there are younger people than Joshua. He's a middle-aged guy now. And there are young ones coming every generation. Here comes someone else that's got extremely talented. You got some right in here, very talented people with you guys. Those three tenors that you mentioned are the first great improvisers that Coltrane, Sonny Rollins, and myself, we all listened to those guys. Lester Young, my brother Tootie, the drummer, he played with Lester, and I know Lester. I knew Lester Young. He was extremely creative. He had his own language and everything. when he spoke. He would say 8 1/2 of chimes. And what is that? 1:30. And he always give you a ding dong when he read ding dong, and he walk away. It's over. They wrote a book about his language, his literary language, and he had his own language on the saxophone. He had the only way, he held the saxophone different than everybody. You know, there was Chew Berry, was playing with Cab Calloway. He was a great saxophone player, and I had a record of his, 12-inch vinyl, playing body and soul too. But Coleman Hawkins is the one that got famous for body and soul. And and Sonny Rollins says that was his idol, Coleman Hawkins. Now, Ben Webster was the greatest, to me, one of the greatest ballad players at that time. He had a breathy sound on the tenor. And followers of him are people like Paul Gonsalves, who played with Duke also. Duke liked that because of the breathy sound that Ben Webster sound. And I met Ben, and Ben was a person who liked to play love songs, ballads. He wasn't a great high, fast tempo player, you know, with high technique and all that. He had the technique of playing a love song. And in doing so, he would have to know the words. If he didn't know the words to the song, like you say, I'm going to play Laura. Laura is a face in the misty night. He would have to learn the words so that he could try to speak the words with his instrument, believing that us would win instruments and other instruments. We're trying to imitate the human voice. And the ones who could sing the best on their instrument can communicate the best to the audience, because they don't know E flat sharp 11 with flat 9, all that. They don't hear all of that. They don't know that. That's what we study. All they know is the sound that they hear, and whether that communicates to them a sensitivity or something. Well, big bands are one thing, and small group, I would think that it's one called New Picture. It was Tommy Flanagan, guitarist, Tony Perrone, Al Foster on the drums, and Rufus Reed. And oh, there's another one too. I made one record with the piano, bass, and drums, and that was Billy Higgins, Barry Harris, and Sam Jones. And that one's called A Picture of Heath. They just put that one out again. Because usually on my records, I'd have a guitar player with me too, instead of just the piano as a quartet. Now, most of the tenor players like Sonny, Rollins, they made most of their records with just a quartet. Coltrane, they made most of their records with just a quartet, piano, bass, and drums, and them. But I love all the instruments. I love the French horns. I love the cello. I made records with cello, French horn. I've made records with big bands, tentets, sextets, quintets, tenor and trombone, me and Slide Hampton, or me and Curtis Fuller, or sextet with Nat Adderley and Wynton Kelly and all that, you know what I mean? So I liked all the other instruments. I wasn't you don't have to be an egomaniac, but, you know, I wasn't just concentrating on me and the rhythm section all the time. So that's why I made different types of records. I like playing with Kenny Dorham, trumpet player. I thought he was the ballad, the romantic ballad writer of the bebop generation. I got a lot of his songs I could play. Kenny was one of my favorites. Byas, of course, was a great player. I introduced Coltrane than Miles. I don't care who said what, who else said something different. Because Coltrane was playing in my band in Philadelphia. I had Coltrane and Benny Golson in my band, and Johnny Coles on trumpet. And Johnny ended up playing with Gil Evans and stuff. So I think, in retrospect, I had a feeder band into the Dizzy Gillespie band. Because we were trying to play all of Dizzy's music. When he came out with a bebop big band, with that music, it just captured my mind. So it captured me. And everybody in Philadelphia, we were like the second string beboppers. Because New York was where most of them were, and Philadelphia is 90 miles away. And they all had to come through there to play gigs. And we heard them all. When we heard Charlie Parker in person, oh man, well, you wanted to be like him, play like him. You know, Dizzy and Charlie Parker, they just revolutionized music to that time. You know, but back to those three tenor players. I think there are a few others, but Don Byas went to Europe so early. But he had a hit record playing a ballad called Candy on the jukebox way before he went. And he played with Dizzy way before he went to Europe to live. He lived in Holland. A lot of musicians moved to Europe from here because of the respect they got as an artist. When you go to a European country as a performer, jazz performer, they knew that this music is an African American classical music, and you go and bring this music to Europe, now they got it. So it's international now. So if I go to Lima, Peru, and I'm in a hotel, and here's a guy playing all trains, licks, and the lobby, you know? So it's a worldwide thing now. It's not just American. So what does that say? It means we have to work harder. Well, that's why Sonny Rollins, as you mentioned, and Coltrane got to be so successful. They worked harder than everybody else. You know, Coltrane practiced 25 hours a day. It's only 24, right? And when we were in a hotel in San Francisco, and Train was practicing in the hotel, of course, in his room, and somebody calls on him, "Hey, tell that guy to stop all that noise with that music, that saxophone up there." Train took the horn out of his mouth and practiced fingering for an hour. I'm watching Willie Mays. I'm watching sports. I asked Train one time, I said, "Man, Willie Mays hit 3 home runs today, man." He said, "Who's Willie Mays, Jim?" He wasn't into sports, man. He let that go. He was into a mission of practicing and music every day, all day. Sonny Rollins is exactly the same. They just gave their lives. But Sonny did the ball of baseball. And we call Sonny Nuke. That's his nickname because he has a nose like Don Newcombe that used to pitch for the Dodgers. So everybody in jazz calls, "Hey, Nuke." Sonny Rollins. And he's got a picture, I got it too, of him and Don Newcombe together. They both got that funny nose. 2 Nukes. Working with young musicians is always a challenge. Because they're going to always, it's like teaching. Teaching is learning. You know? If you're a teacher, if I said to my students when I was teaching at Queens College, I said, "Okay, we're going to play blues in 12 keys. You got to play around the chromatic scale." Then I say, "Wait a minute, I haven't done this in a long time. I better go home and practice playing it myself in 12 keys. C sharp, wait a minute, F sharp, whoa." So you have to, when you're teaching, you're learning. And being around young people, they ask you questions and challenge you. And because they're anxious to know. They want to know what's happening. And as far as the bass players, I worked with Slam Stewart. And he was the first guy to hum and play at the same time that I remember. And then here comes other guys that Paul Chambers and them that did it later. Zuzu system, play the licks and then play them on the bass and sing along with it. You know, I work with Ron Carter, my brother Percy, you know, a lot of different Rufus Reed, Buster Williams, all of them. So over the time, so being Sam Jones to me was one of the greatest walking bass players. I had him in a group. I went to Europe with Curtis Fuller on trombone and Billy Higgins on drums and Stanley Cowell on the piano. And that was when really Sam Jones, I think he could walk through hell and back. Wherever he is, he could come back, still walking. The difference in him and my brother Percy, Percy was working with the Modern Jazz Quartet for 40 years or something like that. And he got to be a little, you know, he's my older brother too. You know, so he's a take charge guy in the family. And he'd tell me, all right, James, that's long enough. I play about 4 chords or 5 chords. Hey, man, that's long enough. I say, man, when I'm playing with Sam Jones, he don't tell me that I got to stop, man. What's wrong with you? So we get in an argument. Well, they're going to tell me to stop because he's been playing with the MJQ. And they swing for about 2 chords and then they go into Bach and Beethoven and stop swinging. So there was a difference. But Percy, at the time before, Miles asked me once, say, hey, what's happening? John Lewis messed your brother Percy up. Can he still play? Because John Lewis had the music written, the MJQ, and it would stop and start and go into different grooves and different modes, you know. So, you know, with the rhythm section, I think one of the greatest rhythm sections was Billy Higgins was a drummer who didn't play loud, but he had everybody in the place shaking their head. He had such an even groove and a beat that it was captivating. And it wasn't loud. Some of the drummers get real loud, you know, and they can wipe you out if you're a horn player. They can bash you right off the stage if they want. I played with Elvin a couple times. Elvin was kind of super strong drummer, but he was very, you know, he didn't give you one all the time. He may come in on the second beat, ding, 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 bash, ding, ding, ding. You're waiting for one, you're in trouble. So you have to get your own time, practice your solos and all that stuff individually, without the drums and the bass and everything. That's a support system that you got to try to play in rhythm by yourself. Well, it comes in different ways. I think if you get a melodic statement in mind, you got to get it down before it gets away from you, because it leads. You get a nice melodic idea, go to the piano and figure out. You can write a song without harmony, just a freestanding melody, and put harmony to it later. You can write a song from a melodic pattern already given. You can write songs, see, there's so many mathematically, There's so many different ways. You know, I studied with Professor Rudolf Schramm from Leipzig, Germany, at Carnegie Hall for about 2 years. He was an advocate of the Schillinger system of music. You ever seen the books by Schillinger? You seen them? Mathematics. Everything is mathematics. See, because if you take like a song like Giant Steps from Coltrane, there's a mathematical pattern to the song, you know, from the tonic to the minor third to the fourth, and you know, and then things like that. 2-5-1 progression. 1-6-2-5 is like I got rhythm changes. So there's a lot of mathematics involved. So, you know, it's different. I think the most flexible way, if you write a melodic a statement of 2 bars or something like that, and it's not too complicated, you have more possibilities of harmonizing that on different chords. You know what I mean? So that is the best way, freestanding melody. You know, my teacher would say, in every melody that's remembered, there's a boss note. You have to have a boss note. That's the long note. So if you say, da 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 da, that's the long note in that phrase. Or if you say, da da de da do re da de do re on Green Dolphin Street. Well, the long note is on the front. That's a positive melodic statement. If you, like the other one was a negative melodic, the long note is at the end. And if you got a long note in your melodic, you know, la la, da 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 da. You see? And you got a long note and some short notes. The short notes are the workers for the boss. You get to the boss note. Bebop melodies got so complicated, 8th notes and very fast. That's why, you know, the general public they didn't get to bebop as fast as the musicians did. They may be getting to some of it now, some of it they never will. The general public, they don't hear all of that, all those notes. You know? Guy told me one time, we listened to that train in the showboat in Philadelphia. He said, man, what's the matter with that guy? Sound like he's practicing all the time. You see? He's saying, hey, that guy, McCoy, went to school with me. He don't let him play nothing. He just keep playing and keep playing. McCoy stopped and let train play 15 minutes by itself. So it's different strokes for different folks. But you really have to, as a composer, everybody, you can find a statement. They say like Duke Ellington, Ray Charles, people like that, would after the gig, when they're wide open musically, they would come up with an idea and get it down. Get it down right when you know, if you go in the shower and you sing to yourself, you think it's a nice melody. You come out and write it down, and then you got that. You document all those kind of things. And then, you know, as far as composing, it's a lot of technique things. When you find out that you're writing something that's already been written, you find yourself say, okay, I got a new song. Da, 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 da. Somebody say, hey, man, that's Laura. So you have to change something. Dee da, dee da, do, do, dee. change a couple of notes, and it comes out as a different song, so you won't get sued. Oh yeah, arranging is an extension. You said it. You know, and studying with Professor Stram, I got to hip to the different rhythmic systems. If my arrangement, if my melody is in half notes and my accompaniment, I want a little action, I may write the second counterpoint or the counterpoint to the melody with quarter notes, or I may write it with 8th notes or 16th notes, how much motion I want. So it's a lot of science, and there's a lot of math involved. It's a lot of mathematics music. So all of that, it's a combination of mathematics, intuition, which you hear in your head, in yourself, individual. But I really wish everybody here that's in the sound of my voice would write more. You know, because being a soloist and standing up and improvising, and, you know, the guys get the girls to clap and vice versa, the girls get the guys to clap when they solo, and everything is that business. That's okay. But when you're not standing up soloing, if you have some music, I've been very fortunate to have people who record my music. Yeah, I could be home watching the Warriors, but somebody records one of my songs, and I get royalties. You see, when Nas recorded two bars from one of my songs, and he rapped, he cursed all over it. But I went to the bank. So somebody bought them the profanity. They love it, you know. So if Miles recorded two of my songs, and different people, Amit Jamal, and different people, it's always good, man. It's also very rewarding to your psyche that you got somebody that, oh, somebody liked my song good enough to record. That gives you, you know what I mean? It must have been okay. If somebody else liked it beside me. So all of those things come into play, man, when you're composing. And for a big band, I wrote, I got about 50 or 60 big band arrangements that I have, and I sell them, you know, and I give them to people, you know, if somebody will play them. The problem now is with technology, what it is, royalties get scarce because people can download your music free. You don't get no royalties for your melodies, please. You see what I'm saying? I used to get big royalty checks, man. And they start to dwindle. Well, I get the pleasure out of being an old guy that's been around for years and years, and watching young people. And I get the pleasure out of this particular group being so in love with the swing era music that I loved when I was their age. I said, now how can this be? They're not in love with 50 Cent and all them people like that. What's he saying? He got shot 9 times to be a hit? He got shot. 50 Cent got shot 9 times. You got, no, I don't never be a hit. I'll be a miss. 'Cause I don't 50 Cent. I said, my grandson used to send me 50 Cent on the phone. I said, hey, Mike, he said, you take a little 50. I said, no, I need $1. I don't need 50 Cent. You got him. But kids, you know, I mean, every generation has their loves and what they like. So you know, some of the rap is okay if it's positive. and not negative. Everything is negative, you know. But I get the pleasure out of being here in Tucson for the last couple of days and listening to people play the music the way they with such sincerity, and it's seemingly, I know it's love because they're having fun with it. It's a love thing. You love it. You got in love. Once you fall in love with music and your instrument, it's forever. That never goes away. Even if you can't play anymore. Like we was talking about, my friend, I talk to him all the time, Sonny Rollins. We're very close. I remember he's younger than I am. So I remember when Sonny Rollins was 17 and 18. He was playing saxophone like, oof. Sonny Rollins is one of the greatest rhythmic players in the history of the saxophone. And we asked him on an interview, what do you think? It says, what do you think of Sonny when you get a music? I think about the rhythm first. That's how he sounds, right? I called him up, hey, Newt. And so we started talking about way back, different stuff. But Sonny is, and Coltrane was my other friend who he was just practicing crazy. But, you know, to me, all of the calisthenics and all this fast stuff and all that, to me, Coltrane playing a ballad album is the most touching to me. When he plays a love song, the way he could play in the high register with such tenderness, not howling up there. Illinois Jacket or somebody, wow, whoa, when he go up in the high register, they'd be screaming. They go up there to scream to get attention. Coltrane's high register playing was never offensive. It was, this captures you like ethereal. It was like heavenly. So each person had a different quality that I was around. Don Byas was, he had the wonderful sound on the tenor. Worked hard to get to that. Dizzy was the same way. When you're improvising, one cue, don't give it all up in the first chorus. Ease into it. And then try to get a climax with your playing before you get out. If you got 2 choruses to play, ease into the first chorus. And then build it up. You can build it up in octaves. You can build it up with more notes. You can do different things to make a climax, because everybody looks for that. And you finally get to that climax, and then you take a break. Like Cannonball had a song, he said he was playing something, and then he ended up, he was done then. The climax is reached, and you can take a rest. Because everything is about energy and rest. Music is that. That's why the long note is important, because it gives you a chance to rest. Giving people time to digest what you played. Don't keep, you say, ah! Okay, I'm done with that. Leave some spaces. What is it? What is a piece of music? Lines and spaces. Lines and spaces.